Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to day 22 of the 31 Days of Horror. D Bougie 86 here again. That is right, peeps. Today I got a film for you guys from 1987, and this is kind of history in the making. This is actually like the first 4K that I ever reviewed on this channel. Like, not just like me reviewing like a 4K, it's just like the first movie I ever like reviewed that I watched the 4K version of for this channel. So that's very exciting in itself. Second, if you watched the previous review of that I did on Quatermass in the Pit, I think you had an idea what was coming from this day, especially like with movies that were influenced by Quatermass in the Pit in general, which I actually mentioned one during the review, Toby Hooper's Life Force, but there was also another one from a few years later, from 87, directed by one of the masters of horror known as John Carpenter. And that, of course, is Prince of Darkness. Uh, yeah, Prince of Darkness is a very, very favorite movie of mine. So a lot of this review will be positive on the movie. I do have some little nitpicks to pick with the movie, but I'll give you a little plot synopsis of Prince of Darkness right off the bat before we get into it. Pretty much what Prince of Darkness is about is it's kind of like a mixture of science slash religion, where we find out like the secret organization of priests actually kind of like hid this object for hundreds and thousands of years down underneath the church in LA. And another priest that's actually involved with this situation is played by Donald Pleasance, and he actually gets in touch with a scientist that I think he knew, played by Victor Wong, who's also a teacher. So what Victor Wong ends up doing is he ends up getting a group of like his students and other like researchers together to study this strange thing that they found in the basement of the church. Pretty much, what this thing is like this giant glass vial that is filled with like this green liquid stuff, and everyone's like, "What the hell is this?" And pretty much what we find out to believe what this liquid stuff is kind of like the anti-god's like sun that has finally like been stuck in like this containment for so long dormant. But once it actually started happening when the old priest died, was it awoken, and it's starting to re-inhabit, and you see that happening where it's starting to change things start to move on their own, things start to happen to people, and people start to see things that they haven't seen, and it's very clear that something's up, because pretty much what ends up happening is they actually get some of them get possessed by this liquid stuff, and others are getting killed by these possessed people, but also they are also trapped in there, because what ends up happening is this liquid stuff actually kind of affects like the homeless that are outside, and they start to like inhabit different like personas and stuff, and people try to leave this place, and they end up getting killed also that way by these homeless people. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. I don't want to give too much away if nobody's ever seen Prince of Darkness. But yeah, it dwells with a lot of things like, is religion real? Is our basis on religion what we know, in that sense, where it mixes like this history of like the devil and stuff with like science, and they're trying to prove the fact that this was actually a reality. And Victor Wong actually has a line later in the movie where God could be existing, but there might be an anti-God and he brings up the theory that they're mirror images of each other, bringing up the mirror aspect of the movie, which actually comes into play a lot later in the film. Uh, some great special effects. I love the score of this film. This is one of Carpenter's best scores ever, in my opinion. It's so brooding. It just lets you get into the mood because this probably has probably the longest opening credit sequence I ever seen to a movie. It sets up all the characters that we're about to meet, plus we get some backstory of the doom that's about to happen, kind of during this opening credit sequence, because we get some credit scenes, classic black font, Carpenter style. Then we get some backstory between some of the characters. That's what's going on. Yeah, and you get appearance by Alice Cooper in this movie as one of the lead homeless guys. Fucking fun role there. We also got interesting aspects with some of the cast. We got Dennis Dunn, who was in Big Trouble in Little China. He's kind of the comic relief of the movie. He's fun. Okay, this is the weird thing with John Carpenter movies and me, and it's kind of weird, especially during this time period. But the main guy, Brian, played by Jameson Parker, he kind of has this relationship with the Lisa Blunt character in the movie, and it's very weird because it feels like since they, he's stalking to her in the beginning, and this is gonna go on a tangent. They end up actually having a conversation later when they find out they've both been signed up to actually participate in this study that Victor Wong is doing, and you're they had a conversation. Another day goes by. You want to go get another cup of coffee? End up in bed. It's like Tom Atkins and Jamie Lee Curtis in The fucking Fog all over again in that sense. Yeah, we knew each other for 2 days. Let's just have sex. We knew each other for 10 minutes. Let's go have sex. It's weird shit like that with the movie. Weird character choices too. I don't know the black actor's name in this film, but he kind of creeped me out when I was a kid when I first watched this movie, because there's that whole scene where he's singing Amazing Grace, but then he just slits his own throat. It was what the fuck? Because this is kind of a hard movie for people to follow if they were kids, because there's so much fucking going on within it. So I do get why there might be some people to be like, I don't know about this movie, but in that sense, where the creepiest thing for me is what's it called? When he's just staring in the mirror and looks like he's crying. And you got Donald Pleasance actually reciting lines from the Bible and shit, hiding. It's kind of interesting aspect where there's a lot of things going on with the characters, and they do get separated in this giant church complex, trying to survive from these possessed fucking people. Yeah, it does have some. It's a little bit longer than a lot of the Carpenter movies that I'm used to, but that doesn't bother me. I just go for the ride, and I'm just consumed by the visuals and just the story in general. It's just very interesting. What's real is real, and the equational things I find very interesting about this film. This is the science aspect of it is kind of interesting. We don't get a lot of it, but it's kind of cool to think about this movie and is there something really out there? It's kind of like the same aspect of Quatermass in the Pit that I loved so much with this one, and it dwells a little bit deeper into it too. So yeah, Prince of Darkness, highly recommend, and it looks great on 4K. I have to stress that enough. This is one of my favorite 4K releases that I bought so far, and I was glad I watched it for this review. This is actually the first time I cracked this bad Larry open, so I was like, okay, let's get into some Carpenter territory. Alright, Prince of Darkness, I highly recommend it. Alright guys, that's it for today, and as always, I'll be back tomorrow with another one for you guys. See you then. Bye-bye.